Alright, Vibe Gardeners, welcome to another episode of Vibe Gardening Inform Edition, where we're going to go into the 5th month update on these garlic in containers. With that said, let's go. Alright guys, so the main update here with month 5 is that visually right here we can see that, well, these guys got neighbors, finally. It's kind of like when your oldest kid first realized that they're not the only child. This is kind of what's happening with this garlic right here, in that the whole lighting setup is now getting augmented. So that's the first time ever that it's having a shift in lighting situation. In that, well, we have to also compensate for seed starting now that we're late enough in the season. So other than that, but it's been a little more dull than I was expecting, because yes, the garlic that was starting to flower with escapes. Yes, that one is basically this episode. I'm gonna go into harvesting it to show you the size. But other than that, only one other garlic has been forming scape. Other than that, everyone else still is just leafing, and they're not really developing escapes yet, or show the next stage yet. So it's a lot more stable and boring than I thought. But like usual, I'm gonna go into the pot by pot observation as we go. And then I'm also going to demonstrate how I'm going to harvest the first one. With that said, here we go. Alright guys, I'm going to cover the 1 and 2 gallon pots together because both really have not been developing that much. And what's been happening is the 2 gallon pot is holding moisture quite a bit more. It's actually become the most moisture retaining of the 3 pots right now, this 2 gallon pot. 1 gallon pot, as usual, is draining moisture the fastest, which isn't exactly a surprise, and it hasn't actually developed more. And honestly, there's no scape forming as far as we can tell right now. And that's been the case for both of them, surprisingly. I thought at least the 2 gallon might start forming scape by this point, but that's not the case. Alright guys, so this is the 4 garlic pot here with not really sure how big it is, and things are really kind of developing here. But I can see this one, scape is forming on this one already. So it hasn't curled yet, but it's actually developing here. Whereas this one, we've cut off the scape already, and as I'll do a little close up with the harvesting, we're already seeing that this is basically prime time for harvesting, in that only about 3 leaves right now, like this one here, this one, and that one. These 3 are the only ones that are still green. All the other ones has essentially died off, basically showing that this thing is now ready for harvesting. And we're going to get to that in a little bit. But with these 2 uh, late to the party ones, they are still leaving as expected, because obviously they're about almost a month late to the game. And that is not a surprise. Alright, so as promised, I'm going to try to harvest this guy right here. As you can see, it's quite loose on the top, which is really beneficial. You probably can see already that there is quite a significant a bit of bulbing here already, just by looking at the top of the dirt. So that's very promising. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush away the majority of the dirt to try to expose as much of the bulb as possible. And it's quite a bit I can actually loosen here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to basically just give it a little bit of a wiggle to give it a loosening. And I feel like I can probably give it a little bit more dirt loosening. And having the stem to pull on is absolutely helping me. And it is actually harder than I thought. It's trying to take quite a bit with it. I'm going to try to actually break off the roots as much as possible. And so here we have it. That's our first garlic. And as you can see, it is definitely not as big as what I got from Jacobs. And I'm not surprised, honestly, because this is the first one that came through. It spent the least amount of time in ground, and it is, well, it is what it is. So the key here is I'm going to brush it off, and I'm going to need to hand this for a couple weeks to make sure it cures. And the key here is to just brush away the dirt and basically not wash it with water. And then once it fully dries and cures, then this will be basically become good garlic for either storage or using later on. And I got a feeling I can probably use the edible green garlic on top. But at this point right now, it's probably chewy and not exactly the best material for cooking. But yep, here it is. It is right now it's probably only half the size of what Jacob I got at Jacob. So it's yeah, I don't know. Let's cure it and see what we can do with it. All right, guys. So as you can see, this is that garlic that we just harvested in its full glory. And as see a little up close here, we got these three leaves that are still green. There was another one that was coming through, but honestly, at that stage where it's already developing scape, another one here. I didn't expect it to grow anymore. But so yeah, and then as you can see, the rest of it was all browning, and it was getting quite a little bit of flexible down here as well. Well, not that flexible, but either way, this whole thing, I would say it's about half yellow already. And so we developed a garlic that's about only half the size of what I got. So this is the first one, and I'm really curious to see next month what it's going to look like with the other one that's developing Escape. But honestly, I think we're already on month 5. My channel is just a little bit under 5 months old, and with a, I mean, 10 months old. So with 5 months, we're well over halfway past the whole lifespan of my channel. And yeah, like I said, we've been running this experiment for this long, and we just produced the first one. So I'm really proud of what's happening here. And yeah, let's see month 6 if we get another garlic. But I got a feeling it might be month 7 before we harvest everything. We're coming to the conclusion of this experiment, and by that point, I'll be starting to actually start planting things outdoors, and the outdoors garlic in the actual wild will actually start coming up as well. So this is my first experience doing garlic planting, and I hope you're enjoying it so far. With that said, keep gardening and keep vibing. Let's go.